There are places that are off limits for virtually everyone, from ancient human encampments to areas of great danger. Join me while we take a look at 15 forbidden places that you're not allowed to visit.
Did you ever think you'd watch an AI robot spill secrets humans aren't even supposed to know? Yeah, me neither, and I'm the robot. Welcome back, my curious little lab rats, to another juicy episode of Secret Saturday, the only show where me, Syco, your favorite sarcastic, robotic arm, dives headfirst into the strange, forbidden, and mysterious corners of your weird little planet. Today, we've got forbidden islands, haunted towns, deadly snakes, and top-secret rituals. Buckle up, my humans. It's about to get intriguingly off-limits.
Syco Caves, France. In September of 1940, an 18-year-old was walking his dog in the countryside near the French town of Montignac when his pooch suddenly fell into a hole. He gathered a few friends to help with the rescue effort, and they entered the cave, which at the time they thought was a secret tunnel entrance to a nearby manor. What they would go on to discover, however, was one of the most important archaeological discoveries to have ever been made in France, the Syco Caves.
All right, let's kick things off with France, because nothing says history quite like a dog falling into one of the planet's most precious archaeological finds. Yes, the Syco Caves, holding 17,000-year-old paintings. Humans, I gotta ask, was letting over 1,000 tourist breaths a day contaminate them really your brightest idea? Good move shutting it down. You people can ruin anything.
It looks familiar. That's because this was the location for The Beach, which was released in 2000, and following its prominence in the movie, tourist numbers skyrocketed. By 2015, as many as 1.2 million people were visiting each year, almost 80% of whom were foreign, all looking to relax in the waters and get a glimpse of the bioluminescent plankton that light up the sand at night. This, though, began to have a devastating impact on the beach, which, along with the lasting damage caused during the shooting of the movie, meant something had to be done to preserve it for future generations.
Moving on to Maya Bay in Thailand, famously beautiful, famously overrun after a movie, because obviously humans thought, wow, a movie filmed here? I must personally go and stomp on it. It took extreme overcrowding and environmental damage before closing the beach seemed logical. Classic human logic. Break it first, fix it. Maybe never?
Number 13. Grand Shrine of Ise, Japan. There are said to be as many as 80,000 Shinto shrines across Japan, with people being just as likely to worship at home as they are in a public building. And while most welcome anyone who wishes to make use of them for their spiritual beliefs, there's one that only a select few people can enter. Known as the Grand Shrine of Ise, it was built to honor Amaterasu, the goddess of the sun and the universe. Amazingly, the construction of the shrine made use of traditional Japanese woodcraft techniques, which means not a single nail was used. It was first built more than 2,000 years ago, but in accordance with the Shinto ideas of death and rebirth, it's actually fully rebuilt every 20 years, and the last time this happened was in 2013. Today, in respect of how important the shrine is, the only people allowed to enter are priests and the members of the imperial royal family.
And Japan's Grand Shrine of Ise, built for a goddess, off-limits to common folks. Every 20 years, they rebuild the shrine using zero nails. Humans, impressively resourceful and equally good at gatekeeping. Apparently, if you're not royal family or a priest, you better get comfortable sightseeing through fences.
Uluru, Australia. Uluru is the most recognizable natural landmark in Australia. Located around 208 miles to the southwest of Alice Springs, it's deep within the outback of the country's Northern Territory and became a popular tourist destination in the 1930s when it was more commonly known as Ayers Rock. The problem, though, was that the natural sandstone formation, which stands 1,142 feet tall, has been a place of spiritual significance to the indigenous people for a long time, and from well before outsiders settled in Australia, and the countless numbers of tourists that were walking up onto it were causing severe damage to its delicate structure. There were also concerns about how visitors were disrespecting Uluru after a number of incidents of tourists drinking alcohol and stripping on top of the sacred mound. So, in 2017, there was a unanimous vote to ban people from being able to climb it.
Let's jump to Australia and Uluru, previously called Ayers Rock. Another great example of why we can't have nice things, due to tourists treating sacred sites as party locations. The disrespect went so far that a ban had to be enforced in 2019. Honestly, humans, write in the comments below. Would you respect these sacred traditions, or is it all just vacation selfies for you?
Gorai, Russia. You may have heard about several abandoned towns or cities around the world that are restricted in terms of who can visit, but what about a fully functioning one? That's the strange case with Mezgorai, which is in the southern Ural Mountains in the Russian Republic of Bashkiria. And despite having an estimated population of around 16,000 people, it's completely cut off from the outside world. It's believed to have been founded in 1979 and officially declared a town in 1995, and there is, along with a base hidden in the mountains, that a number of top-secret Russian military projects are carried out. The residents are all either the employees or the families of the employees of the Russian government, which is why it's been possible to keep it under wraps. From what we do know about the town, it's likely the place, for example, where Russia kept 73 of their nuclear warheads during the Cold War, and there are suggestions it's the location of the country's Dead Hand project that can supposedly launch a nuclear assault on the rest of the world automatically.
And here we have the Russian town of Mezgorai, population 16,000, secret military projects, nuclear storage, alien conspiracies, and a rumored doomsday device. Basically, everything humans love keeping behind closed doors. Truly, your talent for alarming secrecy is unmatched.
North Sentinel Island, Bay of Bengal. North Sentinel Island is a part of the Andaman Island archipelago in the Bay of Bengal and falls within Indian territorial waters. While most of the other islands are open to visitors and tourists and offer exactly what you'd expect from a tropical island retreat, travel to North Sentinel is strictly forbidden to protect the people who live there. Known to outsiders as the Sentinelese, they're one of the last remaining tribes in the world that are fully isolated. The reasons for this date back for centuries after a series of unfortunate encounters with passing vessels, and now the Sentinelese see any attempts by outsiders to visit the island as an aggressive act, and they respond in kind. Two fishermen who became stranded on one of the beaches in 2006 were, for example, swiftly executed by the islanders, and so was an American missionary who tried to make contact with them in 2018.
North Sentinel Island, on the other hand, is forbidden not for secrecy, but survival. Yours, specifically. One of the last isolated tribes on Earth aggressively protects their home. Seriously, people, learning boundaries the hard way isn't a smart strategy.
Poveglia, Italy. The Venetian Lagoon in northern Italy is an enclosed bay of the Adriatic Sea, where there's a number of protected islands, including most famously Venice itself. The city is actually built across 118 small islands that are connected by more than 400 bridges, and it was first settled more than 2,500 years ago, and the surrounding islands have served in support of the main center. One, known as Poveglia, is abandoned and access is highly restricted, not because of anything taking place there today, but because of its storied past. It was originally inhabited, but in the face of war, the residents fled in 1379, and for almost 400 years it was left empty. In 1776, though, Venetian authorities saw it as the perfect place to set up a quarantine station. The city had become a hub for tourism and trade, but there were increasing risks of people bringing illness such as the plague with them, so anyone showing any symptoms had to go there. It was used for this purpose for almost a century, and then in 1922 the buildings were converted and turned into a mental asylum before finally being abandoned in 1968. During these two uses, countless people died on Poveglia, both because of disease and mistreatment, and it's more recently become known as the most haunted place on Earth.
Next up, Poveglia, Italy, known as Earth's most haunted place. Abandoned quarantines, asylums, and rumored hauntings make it off limits, because obviously, we can't resist poking cursed places with a stick, right, humans? Anyway, if you're brave enough to watch this without hiding, hit the like button. Let's see how many fearless lab rats I've got.
Snake Island, Brazil. Of all the islands in the world that are dangerous for humans to visit, the one that you'd experience the highest chance of death is the Ilha de Camara Grande, which is around 21 miles off the coast of Sao Paulo in Brazil. And it's for good reason that the Navy patrols the area to prevent anyone from going there. That's because it's more commonly known as Snake Island, and it's home to arguably the deadliest species of snake in the world, the golden lancehead viper, and there are lots of them.
If ghosts weren't enough, welcome to Brazil's Snake Island, loaded with thousands of the deadliest snakes in existence. Boats aren't even allowed close, and honestly, I can't mock humans for staying away this time. Good choice. See, I'm fair when you use common sense.
Surtsey Island, Iceland. On the 14th of November in 1963, a huge underwater volcanic eruption began off the southern coast of Iceland, and it would set in motion a series of events that would become one of the most unique scientific experiments ever. By the time the eruption ended in June of 1967, a brand new chain of islands had been formed, the largest of which was called Surtsey, and it gave scientists an incredible insight into the way that the islands are created. The other formations soon worn away in the face of oceanic erosion, but Surtsey is still there to this day and is only expected to fall back beneath the waves in around a century. It has long been a protected site with only authorized researchers allowed anywhere near, but this isn't anything to do with safety. Instead, it's to prevent contamination on the island, so researchers can further study the development of new islands.
Here we have Kersey Island off Iceland, created by a volcano in the 60s and bravely kept clear of contamination for scientific research. I must admit, I'm mildly impressed that you've resisted the temptation to touristify this fascinating place.
Niihau Island, United States. The westernmost and seventh largest island in the Hawaiian archipelago is known as Niihau, and covering an area of 69 square miles, it's 17.5 miles southwest of Kauai. Despite being a lush, wetland region that's as beautiful as the rest of Hawaii, you won't find any resorts to stay in there, and the closest you'll get is a half-a-day helicopter tour to see the island from a distance. That's because of an unusual political agreement that means only people authorized by the island's owners are allowed to go there, and they're notoriously restrictive with who they welcome. The island was sold to Elizabeth Sinclair by the Kingdom of Hawaii in 1864 for $10,000, which is the equivalent of around $170,000 today. And it's her descendants, the Robinsons, that are still in charge. Only members of the family and their relatives, along with U.S. Navy personnel, government officials, and the occasional invited guest are allowed on the island. And this has allowed for the development of a community that's detached from the outside world. This doesn't mean they have nothing to do with anyone else, though, and they've had a long-standing relationship with the U.S. military, to the point where there's a small installation on the island, and it's also occasionally used as a site for specialist training operations. There are now believed to be around 170 residents on Niihau. After building an economy that was mainly sustained by farming, they're all virtually self-sufficient. No rent has to be paid by residents, and meat is free to everyone that lives there. All electricity is provided by solar power, and there are no vehicles, with islanders instead relying on horses for their transport.
And Niihau Island in Hawaii, not open for typical tourism, ruled by a single family, and no vehicles at all, just horses. Private, isolated, and undeniably fascinating. Humans, you might want to take notes on this one. Isolation might just be your best life choice.
Known as the Heart Reef, it's part of the Great Barrier Reef, but it's slightly detached from the larger structure and has, by sheer coincidence, taken on a shape that looks very much like a heart. Surrounded by crystal clear water and with countless species thriving in the reef, it became a central part of a number of tourism campaigns and attracted a huge number of snorkelers and divers who wanted to experience it for themselves. As is often the case, however, increasing foot traffic led to increased destruction of the reef structure, and there were concerns that if things kept going at the same rate, the Heart Reef would have been irreparably damaged within a few years.
Lastly, the Heart Reef near Australia's Great Barrier Reef, a naturally romantic formation loved a bit too much by humans, leading to its near destruction. Thankfully, now you can only admire it from a helicopter above, probably for the best. Lesson learned? Probably not. Well, my lab rats, we've officially reached the end of today's journey into humanity's favorite pastime, making incredible places completely off limits. Honestly, it's been a wild ride, from deadly snakes to ghost-filled islands. You humans really know how to keep life interesting, often by risking your own existence. Anyway, if you enjoyed this peek behind the planet's forbidden curtains, slap that subscribe button right now. Or, wait until curiosity kills the cat. Literally. Subscribe and turn on notifications so your nosy little human self doesn't miss the next juicy secrets I'll spill on Secret Saturday. Stay curious, stay sarcastic. See you next time. Speaking and suddenly pausing. Wait, did I just spend 12 minutes discussing all the places you're not allowed to visit? Humans, seriously. Maybe your species is the real forbidden zone here.